Perfect. Well, hello to everyone. I'm going to turn myself back on video so you can see my face. I am Caitlin Dodson Hamilton. I work for Tom Dodson and Associates. My associate Tom Dodson is here as well. We are the environmental consultants for this project, the Replenish Big Bear project, and we're here to just kind of talk to you about the project and get any feedback that you have on environmental issues that we can then take your comments and assimilate them into the environmental impact report and make sure that we address them. So that's the purpose of this meeting. I'm gonna go to the next slide here, assuming I can. There we go. All right. So as I was saying, the purpose of this meeting is for BARWA staff and actually the project team staff and consultants being us to listen to your feedback and questions. In order to do that, we're going to go through a presentation of what the project is, which includes the project purpose and the timeline for the project. And then we're going to get to taking public comment. If you do want to comment on the project, you'll have an opportunity to do so. You can either leave a written comment or you can come up to the podium at the end and make your comment known. We're recording this meeting so that we're able to take your comments and translate them into the document and let you know where in the environmental impact report your comments will be addressed. So that's why we're here today. All right, so I apologize if I'm reading off of the slide, but sometimes it's a little easier to just kind of use some of these words as they are because they're part of the actual document itself. So the project purpose and objectives. The purpose and goal of the project is to recover a local water source that is currently being transported out of the valley from BARWA's wastewater treatment plant to Lucerne Valley, close the water loop, and keep the water in the Big Bear Valley for beneficial reuse. There are several uses, and we're going to go through those as part of this presentation. That goal is going to be achieved through the development of a multi-benefit water reuse project that creates a new and sustainable water supply, augments natural recharge for water supply sustainability, protects rare and diverse habitat and species in the valley, promotes a thriving community through enhanced recreation, educates the community about the water cycle, recycled water treatment process, and water quality to gain public support, creates a project that benefits all agencies involved, develops a cost-effective project to offset potable water demands, and takes advantage of current outside funding opportunities, which is obviously very important because there are several funding mechanisms that the project team has been seeking and that could be awarded for this project that will help see this project come to fruition. This slide essentially shows basically the whole of the project. We're going to go through this kind of on a one-by-one basis, but we'll kind of go through the numbers here. The primary purpose and primary activity that's going to occur are upgrades at the BARWA water treatment plant. From there's going to be an installation of a pipeline to Stanfield Marsh, and water will then flow from Stanfield Marsh into Big Bear Lake, which benefits both the habitat that's supported by Stanfield Marsh and benefits recreation purposes on the lake through adding additional water resources there. An additional potential use of the lake water is to send the water to Shea Pond to support the stickleback species of fish, which is currently being supported by groundwater. There's also a component of taking water from the lake, which you'll see towards the number 7 on the screen, and utilizing it for increased snowpack, water for the golf course irrigation, and then importantly, recharge in Sand Canyon, which will include like installation of new pump station. All right, so I'm going to move on. First and foremost, as I said, is the proposed advanced treatment upgrades, which includes the upgrades to the BARWA wastewater treatment plant to full advanced treatment at a capacity of 2.2 million gallons per day, or approximately 2,210 acre feet per year. Multiple treatment processes will produce purified water that meet or exceed state and federal water quality standards. And in some cases, the water may be higher quality than that which is already in the lake. That's not a promise, that's just possibility. So the method by which the treatment will occur is shown on the screen. It includes nutrient removal, ultrafiltration, reverse osmosis, and UV disinfection and advanced oxidation. We're going to go through these in additional slides, so I'm not going to dwell on them here. The first process in the water flow is nutrient removal, which includes specialized biological processes and chemical treatment removal, which removes most of the organics, nitrogen, and phosphorus from the water. And as you can see on the screen, I think these graphics are actually really helpful. What we start with is on the left-hand side, and what we finish with through this process is on the right-hand side. And as you can see, the microbes get smaller, the constituents in the water get smaller through this process. So that's step one. Step two is ultrafiltration, which uses permeable membranes to remove suspended solids and bacteria from the treated water as it passes through the filter. Step three is reverse osmosis, where water is forced under high pressure through reverse osmosis membranes to remove impurities, including salts, bacteria, viruses, pharmaceuticals, and personal care products. And we have learned through this process that that's one of the main concerns from the community is what is going to be removed from the water. Are pharmaceuticals going to be removed? And they will, through this reverse osmosis process. And then finally, the water will go through the UV disinfection and advanced oxidation process, which disinfects the water by damaging the DNA of microorganisms, while the advanced oxidation process uses a non-selective oxidant to destroy trace contaminants. So what you end up with is water that is clean and safe to use, especially to be used in the lake. All right. So from here, the wastewater treatment process produces a liquid brine concentrate that requires disposal. That's sort of the residuals from this process. A desalter system will be used, or will use an additional RO process, a reverse osmosis process, to reduce the liquid brine volume, and a pellet reactor will produce solid pellets for disposal or reuse. The remaining brine will be evaporated on the BARWA treatment plant site using 23 to 57 acres of solar evaporation ponds. The image of that is essentially that will all fit within BARWA's existing boundaries and will not require any additional facilities or sites in order to accomplish that evaporation process. And then the next portion, so once we've got the treated water, the advanced treated water, it has to get to the lake somehow. So from there, the project, the Replenish Big Bear project, intends to install a pipeline alignment to the Sandfield Marsh. And the exact discharge points are sort of proposed at this point, and the exact alignments are not known. But we are going to analyze these several alternatives in the environmental document shown on this map. So each of these are going to be analyzed, and an alternative will ultimately be selected before construction begins. So you sort of saw this, a little bit of this slide earlier. But another component of the project is a Sand Canyon recharge. So this would utilize an existing pipeline and pump station from the lake to the Sand Canyon recharge area through a new pump station that you can see sort of on the bottom of the screen towards the orange pipeline. And that orange pipeline is actually a new pipeline that would enable the recharge in Sand Canyon. This slide also shows that, you know, that pump station would also enable lake water to be used for the golf course, construction uses, and snowmaking, as several possibilities of what could occur as a result of this project. Not necessarily going to, but definitely possibilities. And just for the purposes of why I say it's a possibility is that in the California Environmental Quality Act, what we're doing is analyzing the concept of the whole of what could be implemented, but does not necessarily have to be implemented, because CEQA doesn't force you to build a project. It just enables you to build a project and to put all the pieces of the puzzle together to ultimately enable this project to come to fruition. And then the next component of the project is the Shea Pond discharge, which would take the water, utilizing either an existing pipeline or installing a new pipeline if the existing pipeline doesn't happen to be suitable for this use. Installing a new pipeline to use this advanced treated water for the support of the stickleback species, which is a fish species that BARWA and the agencies are responsible for managing and keeping habitat for it to keep it alive. Apologize for the background noise. And then the next opportunities for this project are downstream watershed benefits. So as you may or may not know, Big Bear Lake has a dam that eventually ends up in the Santa Ana River, or leads to a stream that, or a creek, I should say, that goes to the Santa Ana River. So the downstream benefits for this project include increased dam releases in wet years, more water for habitat in the Santa Ana River, and additional releases can be captured for recharge in the San Bernardino Basin through the use of the dam or by other means. All right, so let's go through a summary of what this project consists of, because it is kind of a high concept with a lot of moving parts to it. But when you boil it down, I think it is a pretty simple concept to understand, although I've been sitting with this much longer than many of you. So the purified water will be discharged to Shea Pond to sustain habitat for the federally listed unarmored three-spine stickleback fish, which is currently sustained by potable groundwater, which I mentioned earlier. The purified water will be discharged to the Stanfield Marsh Wildlife and Waterfowl Preserve, which will provide a consistent water source to sustain habitat and increase educational opportunities for the community and for visitors. Purified water will then flow through Stanfield Marsh to the lake to increase inflows and lake level enhanced recreational opportunities, which, as I'm sure many of you know, is an important feature of the area, and the lake has been a little bit low in recent years, so this is definitely a great opportunity for the community. So when needed, purified water stored in the lake can be pumped to Sand Canyon to recharge the groundwater basin and strengthen the sustainability of the groundwater basin. Purified water can also be used for irrigation, dust control, for the mountain resorts in the summer, and then possibly also be used locally as snow during the winter months, which would provide flexibility, reduce spills from Big Bear Lake. This would essentially only occur in wet periods, and it's not currently planned to be implemented, but we're including it for flexibility purposes, just to make sure that if it is to be implemented in the future, it's been included in the environmental documentation. Additional inflow may enable BBMWD to modify their current Big Bear Lake management strategy to minimize spills and optimize releases to enable additional water to be captured downstream, as we mentioned on the previous slide. All right, so this is the slide talking about schedule. Where are we? We're in January of 2023. Hello to a new year. Where we're at the scoping meetings, the notice of preparation, which is a requirement under the California Environmental Quality Act, was published in December of 2022. And from between now and essentially June and July, Tom and I at Tom Dodson and Associates and the team at BARWA and the team at WSC, who is working on sort of the water engineering aspects of this project, are going to be drafting the environmental impact report. And the whole purpose for the scoping meeting is to get your comments. So if you have anything that you really want to see talked about, or you have a concern that you want addressed, that we take those into consideration and make sure that those are answered and reflected upon in the environmental impact report that will be published around July of 2023. We'll say that with a grain of salt. There's always, schedule changes that could happen, but it should occur around that time frame. In August, we will work on responding to the comments that we receive on the draft DAR, which you can expect to be a several 100-page document. So it's going to take a little time to absorb for the public and for the agencies that are going to be commenting on the project. And then in October, there's an anticipated board hearing. And right thereafter, we would file the notice of determination, which essentially ends the CEQA process and enables the parties for this project, the project team, to move on to the NEPA compliance for the project, which is required because there are federal agencies, including the Bureau of Reclamation and the Environmental Protection Agency, involved in funding this project. So that's where the NEPA, National Environmental Quality or Environmental Protection Policy, pardon me, National Environmental Policy Act compliance comes into play. That will occur between November of 2023 and March of 2024. Construction is anticipated to begin in 2024, and the program is hopefully going to be operational by 2027. So 4 years from now. So from here, I'm just going to speak a little bit about the procedure. We are not here today to answer your questions per se. We may answer things here and there, but we're really here to take your questions and your comments and to translate those into the EIR. So you will see whatever question you raise today or whatever comment you make, whether it's written or spoken, in the EIR that will be published later this year. So decide how you'd like to comment, and that's the direction that we're moving in next. And the procedure for the comments is for each commenter to have 3 minutes to vocalize their concerns. And if someone's already made that comment, a comment that reflects your thoughts, you can reference the previous comment and say, for instance, I agree with so-and-so's comment. My colleague, Tom, would like to say something really quickly, so I'm going to let him speak. I'm not going to turn the camera to him, but
you don't have to. Good evening. My name is Tom Dodson. I have just a couple of things I want to share. A project like this involves interaction with a lot of state and federal agencies. This is an ideal time for this project to be put forth and considered by these agencies because there's a fair amount of money that is being used to support programs that are increasing self-sustaining water programs. And what I just wanted to share with you is that as we prepare these documents, in particular the technical studies, we will be preparing the technical studies in a manner that will allow them to be used by the agencies, that have access to funding so that we can make sure that we shortcut any time delays that might occur, because we can go straight to the data from this project and use it without having to go back and redo items in most cases. So just making sure you understand this is part of a continuity. We're looking at it in that manner, and we're trying to set up the program so that we can answer questions and get the funding at the earliest point in time. Thank you.
All right, so I believe this is the last slide of the presentation. And we are here to listen and hear what you as the public have to say.
Do we just speak up?
Yeah,
You want us to identify ourselves?
yes, if you could, that would be great.
Okay, Michael Perry, 40-year resident, been involved in water up here. Excuse me. It was kind of a curiosity question. Why can't the NEPA on your schedule, NEPA and CEQA are done sequentially? Why can't they be done in a parallel fashion in order to bring the project to fruition at an earlier time?
The simple question or simple answer to that is that agencies such as the Bureau of Reclamation actually require the notice of determination and the CEQA process to be completed before they can begin their process. But that doesn't mean that we will not be in communication with them throughout the process to make sure that they are updated. And to be fair, we actually already are in touch with the people at both the EPA and Bureau of Reclamation. So they're prepared to take this document once it's completed, and then once it's been approved by the board, once the notice of determination has been filed, to take that and do the NEPA process with it. So it's just the way that the funding works more than anything.
Well, plus, and Michael, this is Tom. In this case, it's also the agency's preference. We've already coordinated with them, and so we're providing the database. Probably what they will do after we get done, based upon the discussions and expectations, is they will probably just do an EA and FONSI to move forward with the project very quickly, based upon the database that we generate.
Well, and actually, it sounded to me like when we spoke with BOR last time, they may actually process it as an exemption or exception.
That's also
I should
true.
say.
Yes.
But the EPA has a different process, and so we're working with them to make sure we prepare a document that they've told us we need to prepare for this project, and that's going to be prepared concurrently with the EIR, but can't really be submitted until the EIR is certified.
Okay, great. That answers my question completely. Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, this is Kelly Barrett, and I haven't been here as long as Mike. I'm only a 30-year resident. But I did have two questions or comments, and you certainly don't have to answer them now, but one would be, after all the years, all the water we've had to put toward the stickleback, we certainly don't want any negative effects on the stickleback. Are we certain that this purified water is going to be tolerated by them, or is it going to be filtered through the ground to get it close to, you know, the environment they live in? So that's one question, one concern I have, because we wouldn't want anything to happen to the stickleback.
Would you like
Can
us
I
to
answer that
answer that?
first?
Sorry,
Even though
would you
you
like
can't see.
us to answer that for you before you move to your next question? Okay.
This is one of those fail-safe situations where you can always continue to use the water that you're drawing from the groundwater basin. But in fact, the district right now is going through a process to test the water, and we're getting special permission, and we're working with, I guess the best term is ichthyologists, but we're working with them to make sure that the product water from the treatment plant will be able to support the species without harm. And so the answer to you is, we're not going to expose them to something until we know a firm answer. We've got a process to get an answer as to whether the treated effluent will be adequate. I don't know if anybody has shown you, and maybe they will, but the treatment train for this water will make it doggone near drinking water level. Doggone near.
And I wanted to add importantly that in order to facilitate the this process with the stickleback, we would need permission and proof to be provided to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in order, and California Department of Fish and Wildlife, in order for that to even happen. So there are a lot of fail safes in the process before we get to the point where we can actually utilize the product water to support the species.
Okay, good. And then my other comment is 2.2 million gallons a day is a lot. But and I don't know the exact total inflows. It's been an awful long time since I took a tour of BARWA. But on the off chance that, say, there were 3 million gallons a day that came in and really wet weather like this, and the sewer takes in additional water, are there provisions of possibly storing the additional water, or, you know, what would happen if there was more water than 2.2 million gallons a day? Are there provisions to be able to store it?
You need to turn to the staff to get the engineers to get the hard answer, but the simple answer is they will store additional delivery of wastewater in ponds until it can be treated, and then they'll mark it through, pardon me, they will take it through the system for treatment in a manner that will not exceed thresholds. Even if there are extra amounts of water on a given day, then I'm talking now about treated wastewater and effluent. Even if there is, that can be stored and then delivered to the various systems based upon the amounts that we've already identified in the document. Good question, and I think we can accommodate it very easily.
Just that way. Tom, this is David Lawrence. So the plan is to put in what we call a low equalizing basin. The flow will come into the plant, into a pond, and then flow through the system that way. So that way, when we do see those influx of flow, that we can handle those. We know that the system is being sized for, basically about 2.2 million gallons a day. We do get 3. This weekend we got 5.5 million gallons a day. And so obviously that's a lot of excess water. So the plan is to store it in different locations and then feed it back into the system slowly as the flow slows down. We'll be able to accommodate for the additional flow and keep as much of that water on the mountain. We will still have the availability to send it down to Lucerne if we need to. If we exceed our storage capacity, then we'll start sending it down there. But the plan is right now is to keep as much water on the mountain as possible.
Well stated, Dave. Who's up next?
Anybody else have any questions?
But just so you know, they're taking public, if you have questions or public comments, they're taking them. So some of us just finished, so they can't see, so they can.
Yeah, so if anybody has any other questions. Well, Tom, it doesn't look like there's any other questions. Unless the new people in the room had any questions about the project.
I looked over at the overview online, and it looks pretty promising. The only thing that I questioned was at what point do you see the overflow being enough fill where then it becomes available to the ski slopes.
You know, that's probably a good discussion for Mike, because he and his team work with the ski slopes, but we have, not we, the project has been defined in a manner that will allow the water in the lake to be used, the extra water to be used for ski slope making snow. And the bottom line here is that I'm assuming that this, once it's in the lake, it just becomes lake water, and the team at the municipal water district manages it in the appropriate way. Mike, did I misspeak?
No, that's right on. So there's actually a contract with ski resorts to with between MWD and the ski resorts to provide. I believe it is about 1,100 acre feet a year to the ski resorts for snowmaking purposes. And so this water, once it's in the lake, will become lake water, and it will become, you know, a tool for the lake management to manage. Obviously, the you know, one of the goals of the project is to keep the lake as full as possible. So obviously they'll have to manage the resource and the demand around the valley. But you know, every additional water source, every additional water we can put into the lake, obviously is a real big benefit to our lake, and it'll keep the lake fuller more often.
So then, what I understood you to say is there is already a contract where you said 11,000.
1,100 acre feet a year. I think it's like 55 on a 5-year roll.
That's already in place. They're already using that water.
That's correct.
I mean, it's understandable that if it's made for snow, then it returns back to the lake. So that's,
Some of it does.
yeah, not much of it.
About half of it, I think they estimate about half of the water returns to the lake. After the snow melts, about half of the water returns to the lake after making snow. The rest of it, obviously, you know, seeps into the ground. So yeah, that project, that contract has been in place for quite a few years.
Okay, great. That's good to know. Is the, I guess I'm the only, you've already asked your questions. So plan is to you have 3 pump stations, correct?
There are 2 pump stations.
There's going to be 2 pumps.
Yeah, 2 pump stations deal with
Okay.
this.
So is the plan then to fill the marsh first and then the lake? Is it progressive?
Yeah, so in between the marsh and the lake, there are, I think, 2 48-inch pipes that run underneath Stanfield, cut off the street. And what we'll be actually putting it through the Stanfield Marsh. It'll buy a filter through the Stanfield Marsh and then end up into Big Bear Lake through those through that connection.
Okay. So it's not gonna get pumped
Does
directly?
it need to be pumped? Yeah, it will, once it fills up the marsh to a certain elevation, it will actually just, you know, gravity feed into the lake.
Okay, good.
Do we have any other questions from the public?
We're not seeing any hands.
Always remember, this is an open process. If you think of something that you haven't been able to bring to the meeting this evening, make sure you let us know. Our goal is to answer all your questions in the best manner that we can. I'm going to digress for just a half a second and tell you that I've been working in Big Bear since 1985. When I say working, I've been doing projects and working with the various water districts for a long time. I have a great deal of affection, And I think this is one of the best things you can do for your valley.
Thanks, Tom. And remember, we have a meeting next week too at BARWA, so if you think of a question after this in this forum, please, feel free to come to the next meeting and ask your questions again, or a different question.
And of course, you can always put pen to paper and write Bridget. She's accepting everyone's comments and submitting them to us. So we're happy to receive your comments in any shape or form. Whatever works for you guys works for us.
Is there a deadline to receive written comments?
I believe it's next Friday. Is it actually? I think it is. Is it the 17th? It's like the day after Martin Luther King Day. I think we moved the date a little bit because of the holiday. Which I don't have the ability to look at my screen, but I can look at my phone to figure out what day that is.
Yeah, the 17th would be.
It's the 17th. Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it appears that we're done here.
Oh,
Does anyone have anything else to add that's staff at the hearing?
no, I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Okay, awesome. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and sign off. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks,
Thank
Caitlin.
you. Have a good
Appreciate
evening.
it. Have a nice night,
Bye, everyone.
everyone. That was easy.
Did you end the recording?
What are you trying to find?
To end the recording.
Right on the end, right at the end? No.
If you just hit end.
Yeah, the red, the
Is it
red
end?
button there on the right. Yeah.
But I was trying to end the recording. This automatically ends it? Okay.
And then you should get like a, I don't know if you recorded it out or to your laptop.